Hi, I'm Dean Sage.
And I'm Jack Hervin.
And this is Show Me Your Deck,
a podcast where we explore the intersections of oracles and chakras,
using our original decks to create new insights. Episode 64.
I love the number 64.
Yeah, it's a good number.
It's a good number. You can do all sorts of stuff with 64. Last week, I didn't make any comment about 63. I was so excited that Joey was here, and I didn't make mention that's 7 9s or 9 7s. I just love that. Lots of 3s, lots of 7s. But here we are with 8s and 4s and 2s.
8s and 4s and 2s, yeah. The 64-bit, like we're advancing through the computer age.
I think the computer age is advancing through us.
The Pentium chip.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the Pentium chip. That was a time. My dad was doing a second job selling computers at Office Depot right when Pentium came out. And so I would go with him on Saturdays and help sell computers to people. And it was like their first computer. I mean, those days, just people coming in and being like, I want to get on the information superhighway.
That's right. The information superhighway. Our first computer was a TRS 80 from Radio Shack. And we named her Liza. And my grandmother taught me how to read and write and spell and do all sorts of stuff and very, very basic coding on that TRS 80. The first program I ever wrote, I don't know if it was a program, but you could put in the code for, run and all this other stuff. And when you pressed run, it would just show you everything I knew up to that point when I was 5 years old, how to count to 100, all the stuff I could spell. It was fun.
That's fun. Yeah, those were interesting days, and people just coming in with no knowledge, like never touched a computer, and the big question is like, what can we do? What can you? And then in those days it was like, you can write a letter, you can you couldn't even pay your bills like that. I mean, that was before internet transactions. You could get on AOL and find local movie times and things.
Oh no, what I'm talking about is like 1980.
Oh no, I had those too, but I'm just like, I remember the wave came because of the Pentium chip. That's when ordinary people, like technically literate people, started saying, hey, I think I need one of these in my house.
What was the Commodore 64? Was that Apple?
No, that was Commodore.
No. Commodore. Okay, so my dad took us to the beach for some business convention, and we won a Commodore 64. And
wow.
You could plug it into your TV to have a monitor, but it didn't come with any instructions. So we plugged it all in. We're all excited. It's like, well, now what?
Yeah.
it just sat there. We're like, well, we don't know what to do with it. I think there was some booklet that came with it that was, a bunch of mumbo jumbo. I was like 7. I was like, I just want to play Wampus.
No, I had a computer. I don't remember it. Like I don't remember it because I was 2 years old. But I had one at 2. I remember using computers when I was very young. Carmen Sandiego, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Remember that one?
I love that game.
That game was awesome. And DOS and your 5 1/4 floppies.
And then the next one was 3.5 inch, the littler ones that were firm.
Inch, yep. We still call them floppy because they originally were floppy.
Yeah. Wow, all that from 64.
Yeah.
Good times.
All right. Let's get some context for this reading.
Let's set the tone.
It's technologically advanced reading brought to you by technologies beyond our comprehension.
Including these dice. It's landed on a 3. The Tetrahedron of Doom has declared that we are starting very abstract.
Okay.
And we're going to start with card number 7. Welcome back, 7. We haven't seen you for a minute. We haven't seen you for a minute, 7. So, as anybody who has listened to us for some time will know, this is Earth meets Crown. So this is red and purple. I am and I know. The root, the physical self, and how it is intersected by the intangible self. How the way you perceive health, wellness, stability, safety, and identity, how all that's impacted by the way you experience morality, purpose, and broader sense of connection to the universe. It's very pretty. See, come to YouTube and see the red and the purple together. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very pretty.
It's interesting. Just color theory wise, like these are diametrically opposed chakras, but with your color scheme, and I have the same. Well, not quite the same. I mine's a little bit more magenta in the crown than yours is much more the deeper royal purple. But there's a confluence, like the red and the purple actually complement each other very very nicely.
Each other on the wheel.
Yeah.
But in terms of chakras, that polar opposites.
Yeah. So I find that very interesting. They have complementary, nature to them, and having the way that your intersections work, like the one intersecting with the others on top. So in this case, the focus is the root. So the root is on top and it's intersecting. And so the colors kind of bleed into the lower.
Gradient.
Yeah.
It's very pretty gradient. But the deepest root of the self and how it touches the highest crown ethereal part of your spirit. What happens in that moment? And that is what is going to be coloring all the other cards to follow. So we've discussed this card a lot in past readings, but for people who haven't ever seen or listened to the show before, I suppose we should still go through it without it feeling too rote. But we've explored this card a lot, or at least this intersection. I don't know if it's come up as this particular card. I've got 4 decks, but this is the obelisk. This is this is thinking of yourself as the bridge between heaven and earth. This is the way in which you send your purpose out into the world and yet still embody it within yourself, and how that is going to affect everything that cascades after.
I'm not really getting the obelisk imagery today. That's not really coming to my mind. Like the one thing that came to my mind was kind of a lightning rod, which I know an obelisk can also kind of be a lightning rod, but I was kind of getting that that divine spark kind of vibe that was floating through my head as you have the cards up there, like the way the kind of ether crackling, that ozone, kind of after effect. Like there's like the strike, but then there's that sort of, I don't know, like it leaves like a vacuum, right? Because that's what causes the clap, right? Isn't it? So like there's light made physical. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, actually, what you're saying reminds me of the idea that so a lightning rod would be metal, so not quite the right element, but still an interesting concept because the obelisk does also function as a sort of channeling conduit, so sort of conduit. But when you were talking just then, it reminded me of the moments when you feel inspiration from beyond yourself, and then you manifest that somehow in the world. So what you're describing to me sounds like inspiration.
Yeah, that's and the afterglow, like that's kind of where I'm getting. And we've talked about afterglow with another card. I can't remember what the card is, but when you have that really inspirational strike, there's just sort of
I feel paralyzed for a moment.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like ease, like everything kind of goes quiet. Like after the thunderclap, everything goes quiet in my mind, and I don't stress about what is coming next. It just absolutely flows, and it's such a beautiful, just like honey, flow, just that beautiful drizzle. It covers everything that I'm working on, and it just feels so right. So absolutely right. And that's kind of the picture that I'm getting. I don't know if it's specifically creative inspiration. I think this is inspiration in general, inspired to action, inspired to new ideas, inspired to creative works. I think it covers all of those areas. So I don't think we're limited just to writing or painting or something.
But you and I seem to experience inspiration in such a very different way. You're talking about you have the strike, there's quiet, and then everything oozes into place. I get the strike, I am terrified, and then I rush to get everything done before I forget what's happening. It's like this race to get it all done before it's gone. It's like, for me, it's panic. For you, it's like, oh, honey. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, I mean, we experience our mania very differently.
True.
I think that it kind of like I'd always before call it the muse, but really it was mania that, kind of got me over the hump, internal critic, and got me working on a project. Of course, it was middling when it was done because I was busting through it so quickly. But I wrote the one time like I can really point to this is I was in my grad program, my original grad program, not the one I'm in now. And so this is 21 years ago. And there was a paper, and I just sort of wrote it in this like daze. And it felt like someone else was writing it through me. Like literally, it felt like I was channeling someone else. It just flowed perfectly. Came out.
Was it good?
Oh yeah, I got an A+.
Nice.
Yeah. And I read it back, like I got the A+, and I was so struck by, because I don't get A+. That's just not, I'm not an A+ person. I'm dyslexic. I misspell things. Words are out of order. Sentences don't make sense. And I read them 100 times and never caught it. Clam. Oh my God. In my book, the amount of times I have to correct the word clam, because spell checkers won't pick it up because it's a real word, but it makes absolutely no sense because it's supposed to be calm. I mean, I'm not an A+ person. I just am not. I'm fine with that. I'm never going to be an A+ person. So I got this A+, and like it, and this moment of like just tingling through my whole body. And I read it. It was like, I don't remember writing this. Like I don't connect to it as having written it. This feels like someone else's work in my hands.
Right. No, when I feel this motivation to act, it wouldn't matter if it's cleaning the house or writing or choreographing or calling friends to catch up or whatever it is that needs to be done. Scrubbing the toilet, doesn't matter. When I get the impulse to do it, it has to happen then. It has to be done then. If it doesn't, I will be completely stressed out and frazzled. I have to channel whatever it is that's needing to be done, has to get done and out of the way. So when I get struck, I get zapped. And I definitely connect. It's like, no, I scrubbed that toilet. Thank you very much. I mowed that lawn. So whatever it is that's motivating me to act in whatever capacity, whether it's creative or not, it has to be. Everything's urgent. I don't like it that it's that way, but everything is urgent. And I know that if everything's a top priority, nothing's a top priority, but everything is a top priority.
That's interesting, because I mean, it is lightning, and the way it flows through your system, right? Everyone's system is a little different. So if you're aligned in that moment, it's going to flow right through you into the ground. If you're misaligned, then it's going to bounce around.
Oh, well, you know what? When I'm misaligned and I feel that strike and I don't act, it usually expresses itself as a lot of guilt, shame, and procrastination. So, and I've been experiencing that this week, actually. So I definitely can distinguish between when the lightning strike feels motivating and when it feels punishing.
Well, guilt, shame.
Yeah, it has mostly to do with how I'm organized inside myself when the moment comes. I'm not trying to blame the universe for stressing me out. It's definitely me and how I'm channeling whatever the motivation is.
I was going to say guilt and shame, second and third chakra. I think in our society, people have those ones out of order a lot of the time.
Yeah, hustle culture will do that.
Like the taking away of your power and your ability to act is kind of the name of the game. right? That's
well, not only taking it away, but then making you feel like you're supposed to be doing something even though you can't. Mm-hmm. It's a very strange wheel to be running on.
Well, and I, listen to these influencers, and a lot of them are like, we got to get up, you got to stand up, and you got to fight. And the truth be told, there's very little any one of us can do. I was talking to our friend Lisa, and, saying she was kind of making the argument that, we don't know about the time. Like we, in the 80s and 90s, things were different, and it's like the mafia. Like an enforcer can't just turn in the mafia, right? Like they're going to get killed or worse. And I was like, yeah, for normal people, absolutely, but there's powerful people that can actually stand up and make a change. And I think that's the problem, is that like global warming, you shouldn't use plastic straws. Yeah, but the billionaires shouldn't fly their fucking planes everywhere. Like the amount that I can affect myself is so minuscule compared to what a handful of people can do.
You know what really discouraged me a couple of years ago? Like really just took all the wind out of my sail, because I was a gung-ho recycler. Like okay, so like I told my mom's current husband, because he's very conservative, he's like, oh, recycling, blah, blah, blah. I told him to his face in front of a room full of people that if he doesn't recycle, he's going to go to hell. And he started recycling. And then I found out that all those little numbers on bottles don't mean shit. I thought it told them how to sort stuff so they could recycle everything. Those numbers don't mean shit. They're not recycling anything. They're selling all that stuff over to China, and they're turning it into like pellets to turn it into like tires, or I don't know. They're not recycling it. And I was like, well, then why are you guilt tripping me about recycling and plastic straws when instead of actually doing anything with policy to make this better, you go to Jeffrey Epstein's island instead? It's like, how is this on me?
Yeah. So I think in our culture, finding the second and third chakra misaligned is very common. So I wonder if they'll come up in the reading, right? Let's see if they come up in the reading, but
second and third.
Yeah. The lightning strike, it's energy. It has to flow. And like the obelisk, the lightning rod, you're aligned, everything's straight and in order. And when it strikes, it moves, it energizes all the wheels. It energizes all the chakras.
So it's interesting. We've got 1 and 7. So we've got a container.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what blossoms within that container. So if you want to think of this like a flower pot or something, it's like, well, okay, now we have all of this. What's going to come forth? So.
Especially with some people conceive of the crown chakra being just above the head physically, like just outside the physical body, and the root chakra being just below the physical body. Mm-hmm. So if you were like seated in the lotus position, the root chakra would literally be in the earth, not necessarily in your body. And I think that's why a lot of people get root energy and second chakra energy messed up, because if you conceive of them both being in the body, then the root chakra is your butthole.
Right.
But for some people, your butthole is part of your second chakra.
Yeah. But I mean, to your point, it then makes it more difficult to clarify what's the difference between feeling and being. Mm-hmm. The imagery that I use in my book and my decks places both of them in the body, just because I don't feel like going to I give myself a very, 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 very strict word count, and I didn't feel like explaining that. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's here and it's here. So touch the top of your head and touch your hoo-ha, and there you go. Bam. Everything else is in between. But yes, I agree. They are just beyond the physical self and containing you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's why sometimes when I'm trying to explain the difference between root and viscera, we have to make the point that you can drop down lower into the root so that it goes beyond any of those nerve endings, so that the viscera can be purely viscera if that's what you need conceptually to understand the chakra. Mm-hmm.
So we've got a container. I like that word. We've got a container, and we've got, 2 contact points. We've got the touching ether and touching the earth. And if we are kind of conceiving this as a lightning strike, then it has to flow to ground, right? It has to flow to ground. So it wants to flow down your system. And I think the reason that we often experience this as inspiration is because it excites our crown first, but it kind of flows down. So like safety I experience is rising up, but inspiration I experience is kind of trickling down.
Mm-hmm.
So that like all the creative, all the inspiration, all the doing, and then it's grounded at the end. So it's like, it doesn't feel like I'm going out of control. It doesn't feel like I'm being motivated in many different directions. Like it feels focusing.
And that's the whole point of a lightning rod or obelisk anyway, is to direct that point of contact up in the sky down into a broad, stable base. So that's specifically what it's for.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see what we can add to this. All right, we got one here. We went to the 4th chakra. We're in the heart. This is the sovereign of storms. Oh, you're going to love-hate this. You're going to love-hate this. You are released from your grief. Sovereign of storms is the king of swords in the tarot. You are released from your grief.
Yep. Here are your kings. We had conversations about your kings. They don't bother me the way they used to.
I'm glad.
So here we are in the direct middle. We've got both ends and the balancing point right directly in the middle. And your release from your grief is, in the context of this lightning strike, as it were, almost like the result of what happens when that energy does flow properly through you.
Mm-hmm.
So you are struck by whatever the idea or the inspiration is. You allow that to move through your life and your experience and your understanding and your action. It dissipates down out into the world the way it's supposed to be, so it's not all bottled up inside you and blowing everything up. And in the meantime, you have this opportunity to understand what you're experiencing, what you're responsible for, what you are not, how to process or metabolize that and come out on the other side, not necessarily healed and fixed, but at least not suffering.
Grief is an interesting one, right? So right below it, like we were talking about second and third, right below it, you have guilt and shame, which are very demotivating.
Mm-hmm.
Very, especially shame, like that just captures you and you're bad, you know, and it just you crumple. Like we can like as you're listening to me, you can physically feel how shame crumples your body. Mm-hmm. Grief is so interesting, and for me, this is the element of air, the traditional element for this chakra, because there's something like a balloon. Like the chest is kind of like a balloon to me, and it keeps the body up. So there's like a rising to it. There's kind of it's holding the body up, but grief crumples the balloon. So it's more of a sink than it is a like crunch, right? So it's not like you're doing crunches. It's not like your body's folding in on itself like it is with shame. Grief is like you're just sinking. Your buoyancy, like you're normally buoyant, and if you were in water, you know, you would be buoyant up to your chest. But then when grief sets in, you sink and it pulls everything underwater with you. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of like feeling that grief has for me. So
it's literally deflating, literally deflating.
So I think in this case, inspiration and grief is an interesting mix, because if you are struck, but you're in grief, there's air missing. Like the way I describe it in the book is it's like standing stones, like the things in your life, usually people, could be pets, you know, like, but the important elements of your life are like standing stones, and then they're suddenly gone. Mm-hmm. And you have to fill that space with something, because that's how you experience it as space. It's empty now, and you have to fill it with something. And the only thing to do is to fill it with joyous memories, to fill it with all the good things that represented for you. And then you don't feel the loss the same way. You still feel it; it never goes away. But if you fill that space that they used to have in your life with something joyous and wonderful, then you can achieve a state of peace, because although it's gone, there remains something in its place.
When you can also metabolize this through beauty, there's so much just poignant, devastating, gorgeous art that's made from a place of grief. Maybe not in the throes of grief, or maybe it is, perhaps, but there are ways to fill that space with something that's still creative. It's interesting how struggle informs empathy. It informs creativity. It informs all sorts of attributes about the way we present ourselves to the world and how we understand what's coming in through us. So with the sovereign saying you are released from your grief, it's almost like the reminder here is that being active, whether it's creative or physical or both, or by some other measure, that is a way of using the energy that's moving through you to make something that can fill that space, that can assuage that grief. So if you are feeling empty for whatever reason, perhaps something to consider is the way in which you remain active so that there's a framework, a lattice work being stitched together, built up inside that now negative space, and it becomes a positive space again. To not allow yourself too much time in stillness, too much time in lethargy, because then, I mean, if your tire is going flat and you don't do anything about it, it's gonna go completely flat. You have to patch the hole.
Yeah, I like that you said matrix. That's my magic system is matrix and lattices and circuitry. Actually, it's funny. We can maybe talk about this more in the members only feed, but I was listening or watching a couple of YouTubes, and everyone's got their take on magic, and I find it very interesting. But I was writing my own take because I think what's missed out is that there's circuitry and like pattern APIs. Like there's magic, I think, is like the original computing system. No, they're on episode 64. But like when you cast a spell, like what's actually happening, right? Like how is that spell converted into something real? And it, the only way that works is if there's something that converts your words into some sort of actionable items. Like you talked about programming your computer, like there's something that converts your words into a program that runs and then creates an action. And like that I think that's what's missing from a lot of magical understandings, is like there's an intermediate force that is being ignored completely. And I think of that as like a lattice of like fifth force energy collapsing into reality.
Yeah. So in terms of casting magic, we're talking about this, transference of energy or inspiration down into action through our obelisk or our lightning rod, if you prefer. That is pretty much what magic is. It's the focused concentration of intent toward an outcome. And it's, if people let's think about South Park for a moment. There's an episode where the little underpants gnomes are trying to start a business, and they go and they steal everybody's underpants. And step 1 is underpants. Step 3 is money. It's like, okay, so what is the step 2? You can't just go from underpants to money. So when you're looking at the intention and the result that you want, there's still the process in between.
And I think that's why the fourth chakra, the heart, is here, because peace is a process, right? Balancing joys and griefs is a process. You can't just do it. Like the third chakra, you can just do something. Like you can just, if you're depressed and you're trapped, you can just do one thing, right? And this happens with procrastination too. You just do one thing. Just do one thing, and inevitably you will do more things. But even if you don't do more things, you did one thing. So the third chakra has an ease of activation. If you just activate it, it will do. It's very responsive. It's push button.
Yeah. Well, its mantra is "I do."
So. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty simple, but with the heart you can't just do. There's so much that is wrapped up in it, and it takes energy, right? But you have to go through the process. You like, especially grief. It's everyone talks about the 5 steps. Like, we all know about that. That was, psychologists came up with that, and then everybody learned about it. But it's very real. It's very real, and it happens in times that you don't even know. Like, you get outbid on a home, and then you fall into this lethargy and this sadness, and you can't understand why, because that's grief. It happens. Denial, anger, like all these steps happen. There's a process to it, and you have to go through that process. Like, you have to get angry, because anger is the energy that motivates you through the next steps. And anger is the realization that this isn't fair. This isn't right. This isn't what it's supposed to be. This isn't what I wanted. Like, you have to have that moment where you accept those facts before you can really move on. And depression is a way of processing. It is a way of slowing you down and processing. Now, some of us have too much, right? Some of us get trapped in it, and our brain doesn't have sort of that normal off switch. It just stays on the whole time. So I'm not saying that clinical depression is a good thing, but depression can be part of a process.
Well, it exists for a reason. We wouldn't have it if it didn't serve a purpose. After, billions of years of evolution, it serves a purpose. It's just not always in balance. With the term process we're using over and over and over, it never ends.
Mm-hmm.
One of the professions, I don't remember which one, it's up in purple somewhere. I think it's towards the tippy top, actually. I'm probably paraphrasing, but it's something like, I profess that I know that dynamic balance is more ideal than static perfection, something like that. Actually, that might have been it. The idea that you have a goal and you will hit it and it is done, and ta-da, and it is done. It's like, that's not realistic. Most everything, let's just use a universal statement here. Everything is in constant flux. And it might be going through a very slow period of change, and it looks like it's still in static and permanent, but it's not. It is not. You have to keep coming back sometimes to reaffirm why you've healed from something. Just about anything we experience is going to be more than a one and done type of situation, because it will always be part of the context of everything else that we experience. So I think we also have to remember that when we're doing self-work, I forget this constantly, you can have a goal and it's fine, but try to think of the goal as an ideal, not an end point. You will slip in and out of alignment with that goal. As a personal trainer, I watch people gain and lose weight repeatedly throughout their entire journey with me. Weight loss does not look like a straight line. It looks like the stock market going hopefully towards a depression instead of a boom. It's going towards a bust if you're doing it right. But it's all over the place. It's up and down, up and down. Sometimes it's lots and lots of down, but you have a trend, and pay more attention to the trend than to the moment.
Yeah, no, this is true in business. There's a lot of people get caught up in this is why the stock market is stupid and should not exist. A lot of people get caught up on small movements up and down over short periods of time, and it's like, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I look at my stuff once a year, because otherwise I'd stress out.
Like, you can be up this week and down next week, and a lot of stores are judged on a month over year, month to month, and that's a little bit fair. Like, that's a little bit fair. Really, it's year over year, year long. Are you moving up? Are you moving in an upward direction? Because you're going to have down months. You absolutely are. And you're going to have up months. And that's the thing. Like, there's seasonality. Like, there's all sorts of things that affect business. And the long-sightedness is gone because of the stock market. Like you guys are down this quarter, sell. Like
it's punished.
But like it's Apple, you guys. Like
they're
gonna go up.
Don't they have like $18 trillion now or something?
They're gonna go up. They're gonna go up. They're not gonna historically go down. And this is why index funds outperform stock traders hands down, because they just stay in the market. They're like, yep, these are the top companies. We're just gonna stick with them. And turns out their stocks go up over time. There's fluctuations, but they keep going up. And I think that, you brought that up in kind of relation to our lives. There is an upward trend, even though you don't feel it. There is an upward trend. You are getting better day by day. You are learning more. You're more experienced. You can better handle things. So even in terrible circumstances, in terrible grief-inducing circumstances, you still have an upward trend. I think that's, if you believe in reincarnation, this life you're learning more than you did in your last life, and you're addressing older issues and finding new ways to deal with them and hopefully overcome them and move beyond them. And that's this card. Like, this card is a very aspirational card. It's saying two things. One is that you are capable of feeling no grief. You are capable of it. Your soul, your spiritual self, I don't know how you characterize those things, but you are capable of being free. But at the same time, it may not be now. It may not be this instance. It may not be this lifetime. So the other thing that this card says is this: for right now, for this one moment, take it off your shoulders. I release you. That's where this is. I release you. I'm giving you permission to take this off your shoulders, to give yourself some rest, and to feel some peace.
Number 3?
Yes, number 3.
We're going to the haiku deck. Deck number 4. And we're going to use card number 38. Which seems like it's going to be up in third eye or something. That we haven't gotten down into 2 and 3 yet.
No, we have not.
38. No, we're staying with third eye and root. So this is third eye, blue, water, I see, and how it's impacted by root, red, I am. So the metaphor for this haiku will look at using earth and water together as an image for the haiku to reveal something about this intersection. So we've got how your sense of safety, stability, wellness, health, identity, all that, how that is influenced by the way you perceive the world, how you learn, how you receive information. So how your third eye brings balance or imbalance to your root. Okay. So water and earth. Silty river heaps clever fertility. Potter, spin your vase. Silty river heaps clever fertility. Potter, spin your vase. We have never had this come up before.
We have not. No, silty river. It's a very strong visual. Like, you can see that. You can see the earth, the silt moving through the water. And it's interesting. I did some research on sculpture because of the book that I'm writing. I did some research on sculpture, and the particular clay that's needed to create sculpture is it's very, it's very interesting. And then that's why, like Rodin had his workshop on a river.
Mm-hmm.
You needed that, that precise formulation. And now we know how to make it better. But at the time, you had to constantly apply the water to the clay. It could never go dry. And that's kind of like what I'm getting here is that kind of image. So you've got the vase, and you have to constantly apply the water to it to keep it supple, and then eventually you can fire it, right? Like eventually, but that sculpture is different than the sculpture that we know in terms of Rodin and like bronze casting and things. Like they're different arts. So I may be mixing a little bit more in here than you intended, but I like that idea of the constant wetness. Like it's earth, but in order for it to be what it must be, what it's intended to be, right? We're talking about inspiration, right? In order for it to take a shape, a form, right, a meaning, it has to be constantly wet, right? It has to constantly be kept wet in order to maintain. And it's amazing. They would have humidor rooms, where they and wrapped in wet, and people would stay up all night. Like Rodin had assistants that would be awake at 3 a.m, keeping the clay wet. That imagery is so interesting to me.
Well, if we are the clay and we are capable of turning ourselves into a vase, and if it has to be constantly wet, that's learning. That's constant learning. Mm-hmm. You have to constantly be learning so you can remain supple. So I don't think you're overreading anything. This is very specifically what the reminder is, that you keep your eyes open, you look about yourself, you're learning, you're keeping your brain soft, you're keeping your brain wet. We have to keep our brain soft as we age. Mm-hmm. Your brain has the consistency of a wet sponge. It literally dries out and turns into a husk of itself as you age. That's why the thinking slows down. That's why cognition slows down. You have to do stuff that keeps your brain wet. Well, that's what this card is effectively saying. If you want to go from muck and mud into a beautiful vase, you have to constantly be forming yourself. And to do that, you have to have water, to your point. So if water is icy and it's the way you learn and the information you take in, then this is quite specifically what the metaphor is talking about, the way in which you remain supple by constantly learning.
And the opposite is getting cracked, like that. When the clay dries, it cracks. Mm-hmm. And
it splits apart. Before you can even bake it to turn it into something, it starts splitting apart.
You lose the form, like you lose the shape, you lose the work, the inspiration that you've poured into it. And it's easy, especially today. Especially today, it would be very easy just to set it out in the sun and walk away, right? Like it'd be very easy to stop thinking. I mean, it would please me greatly some days to stop thinking. We talked about grief. There's a lot of times where we just try to numb ourselves rather than going through it, rather than dealing with the process. We're just like, you know what? I'm just gonna check out today. I'm just gonna and maybe it could be drugs, it could be doom scrolling. But you could just check out.
Something adjacent to grief is disgust. And you can be saturated with all sorts of stuff. You can be saturated with grief. You can be saturated with all sorts of knowledge and experience and whatnot. But sometimes it's a toxic water. Sometimes it is. I mean, be careful what you're wetting your clay with. Mm-hmm. Make sure it's actually water and not sulfuric acid or something. I mean, what are you wetting yourself with? There's another card that looks at water and metal and how the metal becomes like a toxic sludge and poisons your thoughts. Similar to this, except instead of your thoughts being tainted, it's the actual form of yourself that can be tainted if the water isn't pure water. You don't want to be using water that's been tainted with Roundup or pesticides or who even knows what all. Make sure you're filtering that water before you pour it all over yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a desire to be free of things that is okay. Right? It's not wrong. And sometimes you do need a numb, and that's where depression comes in. Sometimes you need a numb.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to be away from it for a minute.
So you can process.
So you can exist without breaking down in tears or raging against whatever it is that has affected you. Like you need a type of peace that, isn't ideal to live in, but you just need everything to kind of drain away for a second.
Yeah, Raging Against the Machine. We had a whole band for that in the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, they're still around and people misunderstand them. It's hilarious.
I know. It's like, wait, did you actually listen to any of their
did you understand?
Do you understand which direction their anger is flowing? Because I really don't think you get it.
Yeah. Like, you're the machine.
Mm-hmm.
So
funny.
the space that you need is there for you, but you have to keep, it's an active process, right? You have to keep yourself wet. You have to keep yourself supple and creative. And you like I talked about the standing stones and the spaces, right? Like that you have to actively fill that space. And I think this card here is that you have to be a wetness to yourself. Like it's something you have to bring to yourself. You can get it from somewhere else, right? Like you can get it from friends. You can get it from therapy. You can get it from comforting YouTube videos, or I don't know, maybe this podcast. Like you can get that water, that wetness from somewhere, but you do have to keep reapplying it. And sometimes it's 3 a.m. Sometimes it's 3 a.m. and you got to reapply it.
When you were talking about the heart chakra and grief, within this container we've got of inspiration, or the obelisk, what have you, I feel like everything you said is right where I am. And then on top of that, I'd also add that this card is reminding you that all of inspiration, all of healing, all of grieving, all of it is something you do actively. And you do it by informing yourself and keeping yourself open to new information so that something can come in and help you in ways that you didn't know you needed. The reminder here is that when you are struck by lightning, when you do have that spark, you do need to be proactive about whatever it's energizing you to do. It's not enough to have the idea, because that's what water is. Water is thought, water is learning, water is intellect, water is the third eye. But if you only have water, it doesn't hold a shape. That's one of the reasons why I put water here, is because knowledge can take it fills whatever space you put it in. Mm-hmm. And in this instance, the space you're putting it in, the shape you're putting it in is you. So you will be changed by this inspiration. You will be changed by healing. You'll be changed by whatever the mechanism is that's putting your intent and your magic out into the world. It's something you have to actually do through yourself. I mean, with my cards, Earth has come up twice now. It is you. And the way you process, channel, and contain the other elements.
I like that. It's you. Yeah, there's a physicality to it, and it's interesting because my storms cards are red, which I kept the original elements. I did not keep the original colors because it just, like, we talked about this, but like my pentacles in my oracle deck are seeds, and seeds being red made no sense. just made no sense. It was obvious that they had to be green. So I knew that the heart chakra wasn't going to be green. I kept the water blue, and I kept the fire orange, It was brown at first. That was funny. Like, it was very subtle. It was a very subtle orange. I was like, oh, this is a good choice. And then I was reminded by printing that you can't have subtle colors in printing.
No, it's mud.
It's mud. It came out brown. So we changed that. We have that very nice bright orange now. But yeah, so I knew that the heart and the root would be reversed. And the colors wouldn't be the same. But it's interesting that, the color red here is coming up for the heart. And the swords, the suit of swords in the tarot is, to me, all about loss and grief and the cutting edge of life and the balance, right? The page of swords is often pictured as balancing on the edge of a blade. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's activity. It's wholly you, right? This is wholly you. And yeah, it is your knowledge. It is your experience. It's all the things that you know coming together to meet you in this moment and keep you moldable, because there's a future version of yourself that we're working towards, and we can't crack before we get there.
No.
All right, let's see. Okay, we got one here. We just talked about it. This is root chakra, the Four of Seeds. This is the Four of Pentacles in the tarot. The cupboard can only hold so much harvest. The cupboard can only hold so much harvest.
Meaning you need to share?
There's only so much that you can take in.
And then you have to share?
Yeah. This is a reminder that, greed is a thing and hoarding is a thing. Mm-hmm. But no matter who you are, even billionaires, there's only so much, and because a lot of billionaire money isn't real money, but there's only so much you can put in your cupboard, right? There's only so much that you can physically keep with you, and obviously seeds, food, right? There's a connection to food there, so hence the cupboard imagery. But I mean, there's only so much you can store for the winter, right? And otherwise, it's waste.
It'll be spoiled before you can use it.
Let me see.
I feel like within the context of this reading that this is talking about, or a reminder about your own psychic energy. If you, for example, are grieving and withholding a lot of yourself, there's the generosity of spirit that the world isn't getting because you're hoarding, and maybe you need to for a little while. But remember that there are people who need what you've got.
Well, storing and hoarding are different. You definitely need to store.
Definitely need to store.
You need to take care of yourself and your family. You have responsibilities to certain people that you need to fulfill.
Absolutely. I'm speaking more about ideas.
Yeah.
And general intention and inspiration. If you don't put that out into the world, then what was the point of it coming to you in the first place? And maybe you need to hold on to it for a little while to develop it and figure out what it even is before you put it out there. But eventually it came to you so that you could plant it and let it grow. So at some point, once you've cogitated enough on what the idea is and what the course of action is, time to share that. It came to you so that you could channel it out into the world.
I wrote this about it. We have become good at consuming and even better at taking more than we can consume. How many garbage cans are filled with waste that could have gone to the hungry or the poor? When you take something from the field, when you reap the harvest, do you lock it away in your cupboards, even when you don't need it for yourself or your family? Storing for the winter so that you can plant again in the spring is reasonable. Letting the harvest rot on your shelves so that you never go hungry is not. The fear of not having enough is strong, and it is why we survived being gatherers and hunters to build cities and form large communities. But just because it may be natural does not mean it's helpful. Abundance that is held close will spoil you as much as it spoils itself.
Yep, that seems reasonable to me.
Well, it goes to your idea that you were saying that, some things are meant to be shared and some things, you are meant to cogitate. And in the case of inspiration, obviously I think there's an expectation to be out there. And this is why agrarian societies, I think we were different when we were agrarian, because the whole town knew that you had to go help. We just knew you had to go help. It's the harvest. Everybody helps because everybody's supported by it.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until like feudalism and taxes and all these things that we started to become more individualistic in our thinking. But there was a time where it just made sense. The farmers would farm and they would keep the crops, and the gatherers would go gather and the hunters would go hunt. But when the harvest came, many hands were needed, and you just did it. You helped each other, and you were helping yourself, but it's just how it went. So here with inspiration, we are meant to help each other. It's how we survived. It's how we lived. And we've talked about this before, the othering, this is my community. And, there was only so much food. There was only so much that you could support, right? And so other people had to break off and form other groups. And then we got to cities and things became complex. But we're not in that era anymore. Like, we're not in that age. We have enough. We could solve hunger today. There's enough money, enough harvest. We could solve it today. So this inspiration that's come to you, this grief that you're releasing, this wetness that you're putting together, it all comes down to there's only so much you can hold on to. And the rest of it needs to go back to the community. You've been given much. So some of that needs to flow outward.
This reminds me of a lot of stuff. Reminds me of Prince, but this is how he operated as an artist. It's one of the reasons why he got into fights and conflicts with Warner Brothers. It's because he was constantly channeling. He didn't want to hoard anything. He wanted to make music and then put it out and just share it and get it out. Now he's a super ramped up, supercharged example of inspiration, but he was interesting in that there was one album he did in the mid 90s called The Gold Experience. It actually went out of print. It's the only album of his that ever went out of print, which is really weird because it's one of the best ones he ever did. It's absolute genius. But it came out right when he was changing his name to the symbol, and right when all that conflict was happening, and Time Warner Brothers, whoever they are, they didn't promote it at all. It's ironic because it's absolutely one of the best albums of the entire 90s that he did. And by the time they agreed to support it, he had moved on to the next album. He was bored and he didn't want to promote it anymore. He's like, well, I gave you a chance to promote it. Now I've got a different idea. I'm doing something else now. And so he went on to Emancipation. And it's interesting how he's the type of person who would just take ideas and let them go, let them flow. Bach was like that too. One of his students asked him one time something along the lines of, Master, how do you come up with all the ideas? And he was like, my dear son, or my dear child, or whatever. It's like, my trouble is not tripping over my ideas when I get out of bed in the morning. For some people, there's just lots and lots to get through, and they just put it out there and they make it look easy and make it look like it's nothing. If ideas don't come that readily to you, they can feel precious. I understand that. But until you do something with it, it's just an idea. And I would warn people to not be too precious about their ideas, because it needs to interact with the world. It needs to be formed by feedback from other people. It needs to grow. It needs to have its own life. Just because you birth it and it's your baby doesn't mean it's your creature. If you have a child and you rear that child and you put that child out into the world, you don't get to control that child for the rest of that child's life. it was your baby at one point, but now that baby's out there paying taxes and has their own opinions. You need to let your idea be born, let it grow, let it succeed or fail on its own merits, and not hold on to this stuff like somebody's going to steal it. There are so many ideas, and if you have a really super great idea, fine. Be cautious of how you share it, of course. I'm not saying just give everything away willy-nilly, but if you are so precious with your ideas that they never get to see the light of day, then it was wasted on you because the world never got to benefit from it.
We live in a time of mass connection, and anybody can say anything and it could go around the world, instantly. And that's power. That's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
You can say something on your Instagram reel and change something. I mean, it's the ultimate butterfly effect.
Mm-hmm.
So you have many ways of getting your ideas out. You have many ways of sharing. You have many ways of being the outlet for your abundance. But you need to find the way that works with you. Like you said, people are afraid of like I know this when it comes to like book ideas and things. Someone's going to steal my idea. Well, they can steal the premise maybe, but they can't steal the way your characters live in your head.
Mm-mm. They wouldn't write the same book you would, even with the same exact parameters.
And the other thing is that we've learned very well that other people have the same idea that you have. You're never going to have a truly unique new idea. I mean, even Thomas Kuhn talks about this, like there's always an impetus, right? Einstein didn't just out of nowhere come up with his stuff. He built upon what had come before him. He had a moment of realization, a sudden realization, and it created a scientific revolution where something that had been kind of slowly trickling along was suddenly boom, the lightning struck.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you've had a lightning strike, and that's amazing. That's wonderful. But how are you going to get that out? How are you going to use the wonderful tools that we have to let that be known? And how are you keeping it with you? So you talked about birthing the baby, like there's an attachment, a bond that you will form in that process. So how is it affecting you? Like how is it feeding back to you? And how's your giving, right? How is your sharing coming back to support you as well?
Mm-hmm. And how one idea can often reveal other ideas. So there's one project I'm working on right now, and I don't even know what some parts are going to be, but then I started thinking about whatever I'm on, and then I suddenly realized what the next part is going to grow into, and I don't have to think about it anymore because one idea gave me the next.
And inspiration isn't just one moment, and the energy doesn't just flow out of you. I mean, sometimes it might, I guess, but I think it flows through you, and like I was talking about, like the clap being left behind, like that reverberation stays within you. And I think it can, that's what, when you feel inspiration, I think that's what you're truly feeling, is the reverberation of its passing. I think true inspiration is beyond understanding, but the reverberations is what we describe and what we share.
Yeah. It's a conversation.
with yourself and with the world.
Mm-hmm. And with the ideas, I mean, the ideas can have conversations, then you're just sitting there watching them figure each other out.
I was scrolling on Tumblr and it found something that I relate to. Someone was talking to an author and they were saying, well, why can't you just, make the characters do this? And they're like, you don't understand. The characters are alive. I can't make them do anything.
They want to do.
I can't make them do anything. Yeah.
It's like, I don't want you to go over there. Too bad. This is what I'm doing. It's like, okay, wear your seatbelt.
I wrote my first novel, I think 5 times on paper. I think something like that. And at one point I was writing one draft and my main character just went in the corner and sat down and huddled into a fetal position and wouldn't get up. I was like, okay, well, this is not going to happen.
No, they will have their way. So, shall I?
Yeah, let's roll.
All right, we're going to have literal professions this time, deck number 2. And we're going to have card number 40. Let's see, 40. Well, here's finally a little bit of fire. This is third eye again, water, blue, I see, and how it is impacted by solar plexus, fire, yellow, I do. So the way in which you see and perceive the world, how you learn, how you understand and perceive how all that's impacted by the actions you take, and by the power you exert and the force that you put out into the world. So how your ideas are impacted by your actions. I profess that I see the importance of constantly refining myself. I profess that I see the importance of constantly refining myself.
Well, this is just follow on, right?
I mean, we already had this discussion.
Yeah, this is just, I love it when the cards do this. This is just an absolute summary. So it's reinforcing the lesson that we have pulled out. Fire and water. That's an interesting combination. I watched, they had superheated metal. I don't know what it was. It was some object of importance, but they submerged it in the water to rapidly cool it. Mm-hmm. So that it would, really harden. And the water was on fire because there was so much heat escaping from this interaction that there were flames floating on the surface of the water. And that's such an interesting image. Such a beautiful, interesting image to have.
The metaphor that goes with this one is a steam engine. And how those engines, or any engine, gets refined over and over and over until we get something so efficient that we can have nuclear power. Mm-hmm. The idea that heat, fire, nuclear power, whatever, applied to water, you go through all these iterations, constantly refining that technology, and now you've got something that, went from just being a little engine on a tabletop to something that can power whole cities. And all that is really is just a huge example of constant refinement on a technology. The inverse of this, when fire is on top and water is below, that one is, I'm pretty sure I profess that I do in the world what I see in my mind. And that is looking at your actions and how they're influenced by the way you learn, the way you perceive. With the idea so that you aren't just wasting energy, you're putting it towards an actual goal, an actual purpose, an actual idea. So these are not quite the same, because one is about the way in which you take your action and apply it to something. The other is the idea is already existing and what you do to make it better and better and better. So it's nuanced, it's different. But that's why in my system, the inversion of an intersection doesn't necessarily negate anything. It changes the nuance. But in this particular collection of reminders, both of them have to do with the way in which ideas and actions intersect with each other. And in this one, number 40, it's the reminder that whatever you're doing or whoever you are, there's always going to be the opportunity for improvement, refinement, subtlety, polish. Nothing has to be finished. Now, this can become a trap. You can finally apply the brush stroke that ruins the whole painting. So it's not a reminder to keep doing just to do. It's, I think, a reminder to remain curious about whatever the idea and whatever the practice is, so it doesn't become rote, so that you remain engaged with it. Well, and that even if the process doesn't become better, you as a person do, just for having practiced it.
I was just going to go to process. I think this is talking more about constantly building up and refining the process, but the process creates products. And I think that's why the Four of Seeds came up, because it's a reminder that there are discrete things which you share, which you create, which you package. There are discrete things, and you put them out, and then the process keeps going, and you do more and maybe more strikes of lightning. So each strike of lightning doesn't just set off like a wildfire within you, hopefully. And there is a discrete output. And like I took my first Teen Sage books, I ran them through Gemini, and I said, tell me how I did. And it was accurate. It was accurate, and it told me how I did. And then I gave it some of my more recent writing, and it's like, oh, this is better. And I'm like, okay, that's good, right? But that's the process.
That's the constant refinement.
I birthed these things. They're out there. People enjoyed them, and they're a little silly. They were meant to be a little silly, a little fun. They were escapist, right? They weren't grand works of literature. So I'm happy. I'm proud of them. I did them. I created them. I did them. I was successful. I made money. I made a decent amount of money for an unknown author with only the internet to sell things and absolutely no fans to talk to. I'm greatly pleased with that. That's amazing. But there's more to do, right? There's more to go. There's more to create. There's more to experience. It all keeps going. So the process keeps going, and this steam has to build up. It gets released into power, and then it builds up again, and then it gets released into power, and on and on, on and on.
Yeah.
I have the image of a furnace in my fire sequence, which I think is kind of a good, nice overlap for here. It's the 8 of flames, which is be the 8 of wands in the tarot, and it's where the fire becomes internal for the first time. So as you progress through fire, as you progress through the 3rd chakra, there's a lot of external flames.
I have a kiln in my system.
Yeah. And then at the 8, it turns inward and it becomes a furnace, and you harness the energy for the first time, and instead of just experiencing it becomes something that you keep and turn, and then I think of like blast fire. I mean, it's amazing. You can take stuff that isn't burning that hot and turn it into something that burns very hot. Incredible temperatures hot enough to melt steel, iron. Like, that's incredible. And it's because you've internalized it. You've brought it inside something that compounds it and drives it and pushes it. And I think that's, we kind of danced around the kiln and the furnace a little bit here, but the engine, right? The steam engine, you have to have the steam compact in order for it to work.
Yeah,
it can't
it has
just
to be under pressure
release.
so it can move the turbine.
Yeah, it can't just release. It has to have pressure. And I think pressure's okay. I think that's a note here. Pressure's okay. Having the pressure to do something and then releasing the pressure to create something, that's positive.
Mm-hmm.
Not all pressure is bad. Some pressure is.
Well, pressure can be motivating or it can be crushing.
Yeah.
And looking at the reading as a whole, starting with this idea that, or this reminder that when inspiration or motivation strikes, you don't have to immediately lash out and do something. There's this entire sequence that we went through with all these other cards that look at the ways in which you make sure you're in a safe space, make sure that you're not acting from grief, that you understand the process, that you understand who you are and why you're doing what you're doing, and that it might have to go through iterations before it's really ready to be fully shared, but that you don't hold on to stuff like a cupboard that's stuffed too full with seeds, that there is an entire package that goes along with this idea of being inspired. And it can be very rewarding, especially once it's shared. And it can help you. It's almost like working out, but you're working out your creativity. The more you do, the stronger it'll be, the easier it'll become, the faster you'll recover, and the better you'll understand yourself. So the practice of inspiration isn't just the moment of receiving it, it's the entire lifestyle and practice of implementing it and then sharing it and allowing it to evolve if it needs to.
And this is true even if you're just putting out your ideas on moral philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be good at doing it on camera. I saw a reel from a woman who did some they were fun. They were just fun little things. And she was overacting, maybe some would say, but purposefully, like that was the point, was to express a big range of emotions in order to make the humor happen. And this was 6 years ago, and she's kind of reviewing, and she's like, that still makes me money. Like that video still makes me money to this day. And yes, she's different. She's like, I don't do my eyebrows with eyelash curler anymore, but
maybe you should.
Oh no, hers were beautifully painted on. No, but it's you're gonna put things out there, and then you're gonna get better at it, and that's fine. And you shouldn't be ashamed. Like, I'm not ashamed of the old stuff. Like, yeah, it's a 5 out of 10. It was written in a manic moment. It was, supposed to be fun little erotica. There wasn't really any stakes. And I think that's why I was able to do it, because I didn't feel this like heavy, like in my first book series, it felt so heavy by the time I got to the 4th book that I couldn't carry it anymore. I couldn't. And, then I had this freedom of a new name and a fun little premise. And it's about how the sex influences the relationship. And that's interesting, right? That's an interesting place to be. And I love romance. Romance is fun. Of course, we like to see people get together and happily ever after. I mean, of course we like that. So you're gonna do something. You're gonna put it out there. You're gonna get better, and then you're gonna put something else out there. And even with moral, like if I won the lottery today, I would finish my doctorate, and then I would immediately go back to a bachelor's program and take my minor in philosophy and turn it into a major in philosophy. And I would pursue all the way up to the PhD, and I would pursue it in moral philosophy because I really am interested in moral philosophy. I think there's it's something that I've come up against so much in my life.
Mm-hmm.
What's moral? Because I know what's expedient. I know what's expected. I know what I have to do to get a paycheck. But what's moral? And can you be moral in the world that we live in? Is it possible? That's a question that I would spend the rest of my life answering. That truly
refined. It would get more and more refined.
And I would do it through creative writing. I would do it through philosophizing. I would write books. I don't know if I get published, but I'd write them, right? Like I would go through this idea. And it's funny because The Good Place, which is an excellent show. Oh my goodness. Have you watched? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
It's an excellent show, and it's inspired by moral philosophy. It's inspired by a book, a philosophical book, and it inspired the showrunner to create this whole show. And it's great comedy and it's great acting, and but at its core, it is a philosophical examination of the life that we live, and what it means to be human, and what it means to be moral as human. So don't wait. Like, I still might do that. My company pays for education. I might still do that. I don't know. I have to get through this doctorate first. Like
finish this one.
That's on my horizon right now. But I'm like, if they're gonna pay for it, why not? So yeah, I find it very interesting that we will get better. That we will put something out, right? We can't hold on to it because it'll just spoil if we do. Put something out there. And maybe this is your impetus to just turn that camera around, right? Use the back camera. We all know that. Use the back camera. It's the better camera. Mm-hmm. Turn that camera around. Say something, especially if you have privilege, right? Especially if you have position. Say something. What is it that's on your mind, what struck you, and become part of a conversation. And yeah, there's good and bad to that. There's criticisms that'll fly, but there's also support, and maybe you'll find some audience, maybe you'll find some like-minded people, and maybe, and this is the most important thing, maybe you'll have an effect on someone's life in a meaningful and profound way. And I think that's the win. Like, I don't write my books and I don't do the work that I do during the day just to make money. Money's good. I need it. But my vision, my mission is that what I'm doing will positively impact people's lives.
Yeah, and just a reminder that your work doesn't have to be perfect for it to exist.
Oh, no, fan fiction. We could be talking about fan fiction. Fan fiction can have profound effects on people because authors, whether they know it or not, are exploring huge issues. And I've read fan fictions where there's, depression and PTSD, and, it doesn't have to be blockbuster, best-selling literary fiction to have meaning, and anything can have meaning. You can share profound ideas through the most intense erotica ever imagined. It doesn't have to be purple prose and William Faulkner. Like, it doesn't have to be that.
It's probably better that it's not, unless you actually write that way.
Yeah. Well, Hemingway pointed it out that simplified language is probably better, actually. That's why tropes are so interesting to us, because they express something true about us. We have a members only. It's patreon.com/DeanSageMedia. You can get longer episodes where we talk about how the episode's reading affected us personally and how we kind of understood it in our own lives. We often talk about our creativity and current projects and other things like that. So if you'd like a longer episode with some more details and a little bit more personalized attention, you can go to patreon.com/DeanSageMedia. YouTube is Show Your Deck. You can see the pretty colors that we baked into our decks and the mandalas and just all the wonderful work that we did together. We're very proud of those. Books and decks are available at showyourdeck.com. My books are available through Amazon, either in Kindle Unlimited or hardback and paperback. And Jack's books are available through Jack's website. Our decks are available through a third-party distributor. Jack, where can we find you?
I am 49 Haiku. That's the number 4, the number 9, HAIKU on the interwebs. That would be 49haiku.com. And on Instagram, it is at 49haiku.
I am Dean Sage Media. Find me if you dare. We do have an Instagram. It's at your deck. And we will say goodbye.